The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
State of the Union with Candy Coley, CNN Sunday morning, 9 Eastern.
We sat down with Donald Trump Friday at his offices saying we wanted to get past the birther issue. He said he preferred to talk about other things too, but 10 minutes later we were still on the subject. Next week, Trump on China, Libya, and OPEC. Today, Trump and the widely debunked doubts about where the president was born. Okay, let's get this out of the way because you have been making a lot of waves lately. You came loaded for bear with a birth certificate. You'll be happy to know I brought one as well. Certification of live birth. It's good enough for the state of Hawaii and the State Department.
Okay.
U.S. State Department recognizes these as legitimately.
It's not a birth certificate, Candy, and people are trying to figure out why isn't he giving his birth certificate. It's not a birth certificate. A certificate of live birth, and you can see that one that you have and the one that I brought you, because that's the one that's on the internet and all over the place. It doesn't even have a serial number. It doesn't have a signature. It doesn't have a signature. One that I saw on television has a stamp, but that's not a signature.
Right, but that's how they
Excuse me, but that's not the one that they were showing to everybody.
After it released a copy of the certificate in 2008, the Obama campaign said the serial number was blacked out for concern over Hawaiian procedure. Since then, many news organizations and the Annenberg Fact Check Project saw the original with the serial number, an embossed seal, and a stamped signature. Officials in Hawaii say this is standard.
And I just say very simply, why doesn't he show his birth certificate? Why has he spent over $2 million in legal fees to keep this quiet and to keep this silent? When I listened today to the tape of the grandmother, and she was saying he was born essentially in Kenya, and then all of a sudden, don't forget, this is when Barack Obama was hot as a pistol because it looked like he was going to get the nomination, and they had a lot of people, a lot of handlers in there, and all of a sudden you hear people all over the room, no, 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 he was born in Hawaii, he was born in Hawaii. But she didn't say that.
But they say it was a misinterpretation.
Excuse me, they drowned her out. She was like, there were a lot of people in that room, and she said, Kenya, he was born right here, and then they started saying, screaming, no, 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 you mean Hawaii, you mean Hawaii.
Here's a portion of that taped international phone call.
Was she present when he was born in Kenya?
Was she present when he was born? Well, yes. Yes, she was. He was present when he was born.
Whereabouts was he born? I thought he was born in Kenya.
He was born in America, not in Mombasa.
Do you know where he was born? I thought he was born in Kenya. I was going to go by and see where he was born.
You can hear the entire, sometimes confusing conversation on our website, cnn.com/SOTU.
I don't like to talk about this issue too much because I really would rather talk about China. I would really rather talk about what OPEC is doing to destroy us. I would really rather talk about other things. But I'll be honest with you. I started this and I heard the question for the first time 4 weeks ago. And I assumed, although I had heard about it for years, I assumed that he was born in the United States, meaning in Hawaii. I assumed that. The more I go into it, the more suspect it is. Now, he doesn't have a birth certificate or he's not showing it. And I wish he did have one, but he doesn't have it. There's a huge difference between a birth certificate, and I can show you mine. It's upstairs, and it's in great detail, and it's certified by everybody, and it's got signatures all over it. It's got a birth certificate. He shows a certificate of live birth, and a certificate of live birth is easy to get, and it's not the same thing. It's a totally different thing. And in many states, a certificate of live birth, you can't even get married or you can't get a driver's license with it. The fact is, his own family doesn't know which hospital he was born in Hawaii. And here's one other thing. Wherever you were born, I can go to that hospital and I can find out the name of your doctor, the name of the number of your room, how much you paid, excuse me, how much you paid, how much this, how much that. I can find the information. I can guarantee you, my hospital has all the information, how much my parents paid for that unfortunate day when I was brought into this world, this rather crazy world. But the fact is, nobody has any information. And his people in the United States don't even know which hospital, his relatives don't even know which hospital he was born in. So It's a very strange situation. That's all I can tell you. And you know, it's a very sad thing because the people, the birthers, they got labeled, and they got labeled so negatively. And even the word birther is a negative word. And I always tell people, I was a very good student. I went to the best college. I went to great schools. I have very high aptitude. Because if you come out and say, and even question, the press goes wild. They get angry at even the question. And the fact is, if he wasn't born in this country, he shouldn't be the president of the United States.
In fact, 2 separate Honolulu papers published birth announcements, which Trump says he can explain.
It was 8 days later, after the supposed birth. It was 8 days later. And many people that are on a certain side of this say his grandparents said they made the announcement. You're not talking about the same day. You're talking about 8 days. A lot of things happen in 8 days. Excuse me. And the grandparents put that in because obviously they want him to be a United States citizen. Because in those days, I mean, people were much more proud than they are today, unfortunately, for being a United States citizen. So they wanted him to be a citizen of the United States for that purpose, and also for hospitalization, for welfare, for this, for that, for all of the other assets you get from being a United States citizen. So there are very smart people that say that's routinely done, and that was done by his grandparents.
I just want to say,
Candy,
and then we'll move on.
8 days, excuse me, 8 days later.
Well, I think you could make a case for people that whose birth announcements show up later, but I will tell you that we checked with both these papers early on, not to this latest when you brought it back to the headlines, but the fact is that the hospitals reported this information to the papers,
Who
and
knows?
the papers
You're talking
printed
50
it.
years ago.
Nonetheless, there is enough here that's going to keep. We're going to be talking about this 20 years from now. I
No,
can
but you
almost
shouldn't be.
guarantee you. But
Why? Here's my look. I'll leave it at this because I'd much rather talk about China. I'd much rather talk about OPEC. I'd rather talk about how all these countries are ripping us off and how they shouldn't be, and we can stop it easily. That's what I'd rather talk about. But I'll tell you, there's a real question, and even you say you're going to be talking about this for 20 years. You shouldn't be talking. Why doesn't he give his birth certificate? He says he has a birth certificate, and I hope he does. And by the way, you know who's going to be the happiest if he produced a birth certificate? A real birth certificate, not a certificate of live birth, which is not a birth certificate. I would be. I would be very happy. Somebody would say, oh, wouldn't that be bad for you? I said, absolutely not. I would be very happy if he produced a real birth certificate. So either they don't have one, which is very bad, or there's something on it that he doesn't want people to see. And I think that would be the lesser of two evils, no matter what's on it.
let me give you another conspiracy theory of a different sort, and that is from fellow Republicans who don't, as you know, think this is a total losing issue for the Republican Party.
Excuse me, 55% of the Republicans believe in this issue, and 70% think that there's at least a good chance he wasn't born in this country.
On the other hand,
I don't think it's a losing issue.
Well, if you could get elected just by Republicans, I guess that's so. But if you look at the totality of the country, you're right.
You do have to go step by step.
Right. This gets me to the conspiracy theory, that this is something that is an issue to the base of the Republican Party, and by that they mean voters who vote in the primaries, and that this is a cynical play to get their attention.
By who?
And to get by you.
Well, I don't think so.
By bringing this up and saying, hey, I'm thinking about running for president, by the way, I don't think the president's really
Let him show me a
was
birth
born.
certificate. How come nobody has any records of his hospitalization? They don't know his room number. They don't know the nurse. They don't know the doctor. Let him show me, or not me, let him show a birth certificate. It's a problem for them.
Yeah, let me try to move this on, just because I know we could get engulfed in this.
This is not a conspiracy on my part, believe me.
And because I can also tell you that there are others in the Republican Party who say, I think he's trying to help the president, because this sort of thing sounds crazy to a lot of the country.
Those are fools, and I don't think there are those people. I think anybody that would say that is a fool. I believe that this is a very bad issue for the president. I believe that there are a lot of very smart people, and I've had them call me, and I've had some say, yeah, get off that issue, Donald. You're better on China, okay? And you're better on the economy, and you're better on jobs, because that is my strength. They say, Donald, get off that issue. You're better on jobs, and you're better talking about the world, especially as it pertains economically, okay? And I agree. But you know what? A lot of very smart people are very confused by what's going on here, and they don't know why did he spend all this money, and they don't know why hasn't he given his birth certificate.
Let me move
and I think it's a very bad issue for the president, not for the Republican Party.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.